Just in as well, Facebook says it will suspend former President Trump's account for 2 years now following its finding that he stoked violence ahead of the deadly January 6 riots at the Capitol, one person dying directly related to the riots. The social media site does say it will end at the end of the 2 years. It will assess whether the risk to public safety has receded. So that's new from Facebook, suspending President Trump's account for 2 more years because they say he incited violence, although he did say to go home peacefully as well on one of those platforms anyway. And don't forget, we will be carrying Donald Trump's address in North Carolina at the GOP convention right here on Newsmax TV. That's tomorrow night at 7 p.m. and you can watch it here. Former President Trump's family is also pushing back against the media, the multiple reports claiming that he believes that he will be reinstated as president by August. The Washington Post wrote, quote, Trump has become so fixated on the audits that he suggested recently to allies that their success could result in his return to the White House this year, according to people familiar with comments he has made. Obviously, no one specifically cited here, all based on anonymous sources. This all followed after New York Times reporter Maggie Haberman tweeted Trump has been telling a number of people that he's in contact with that he expects he will get reinstated by August. So there you go. Meanwhile, a new study also finds that conservatives are supposedly more likely to believe fake news than liberals. CNN, of all people, citing a small but intensive study done by communication specialists Kelly Garrett and Robert Bond of Ohio State University. CNN writes that it's the latest in a series of studies that show people on the political right tend to not only be targeted by fake news, but believe it's correct. Let's talk about this with a fake news expert, host of the Michael Knowles Show. Michael Knowles, also the author of the new book. And I see there are physical copies floating around now of Speechless, Controlling Words, Controlling Minds. I'm yet to get my hands on one, but I wait patiently, Michael, for that. Good to see you. You got it. You got it. It's there.
Great to be with you. I'll try to hand it to you through the screen.
Maybe someday we can work on that. We're working on that technology. We don't have it yet, but Dr. Fauci does say that it can. Anyway, I kid. So, conservatives are more likely to believe fake news, according to this CNN study. Well, CNN publishing the study from Ohio State, but CNN has a lot of fake news. I guess they want us to believe. I don't know. Is this some kind of projection here, Michael?
Well, this is a very complicated calculation to make because CNN is fake news. So if CNN is telling you that conservatives are more likely to believe fake news, then I suppose that means that conservatives are less likely to believe fake news. The timing is also pretty hilarious because just this week we are learning that through the release of Dr. Fauci's emails and through the release of new studies that have come out on the coronavirus and the effect of the lockdowns and the effect of masks and the effect of everything else, that the conservatives were right about everything. The conservatives who were skeptical of the Faucis of the world were right from the very beginning about the masks, about the lethality of COVID, about the threat to children, on and on and on. So it seems to me that you can get to this conclusion in a survey if you define real news as the stuff that Democrats believe and fake news as the stuff that conservatives believe. But obviously that is not the case, a very partisan way, and it's a circular argument that begs the question.
It's an important thing to talk about as well because we do need information to make assessments on. But it just seems, I'm struck, Michael, by the lack of accountability in the media today and an unwillingness to admit they're kind of talking about it. Yeah, this happened. It's a theory. Maybe we should have paid more attention to it. But there doesn't really seem to be any real kind of self-assessment. And, what are we going to do? A come to Jesus moment. You don't hear any of that from these people. And instead, they are perpetuating more of these kind of wild fantasies about Donald Trump saying he's going to be reinstated in August. I mean, forgive me if I'm a little cynical and skeptical of these reporters who keep mentioning anonymous sources.
But there can never be accountability for the media because the media are not in opposition to any of the other institutions. The media are part of those institutions. So the way it works in a good functioning media ecosystem is that the media will speak truth to power and they will, hold people's feet to the fire. But the media are the power. They're the same thing as big tech. They're the same thing as the administrative government. They're the same thing as the Democrat elected officials. They're the same thing as the universities. They're the same thing as lower education too. And conservatives have a few tiny little outlets. We have maybe a couple of TV channels like this one. We've got a couple of places on new media like the Daily Wire.
Right.
But that's about it. And so they won't be held to account because they control those means of communication. And the way that they've been able to gain that sort of power is because they've gone in, gotten positions of influence, and they're willing to wield that political power, something that conservatives have totally neglected. So we shouldn't be surprised when the people who told us what they were going to do actually did go in and now are wielding that.
Let's do some live action role playing here right now, Michael. We can pretend like we are in the news conference. This is the AOC news conference yesterday where she's talking about ways we can save communities. We're going to pretend like another reporter has already asked her a question about jails, and you and I can play follow-up after this. Here it is. Here's the exchange.
If we want to reduce violent crime, if we want to reduce the number of people in our jails, the answer is to stop building more of them. The answer is to make sure that we actually build more hospitals, we pay organizers, we get people mental health care and overall health care, employment, etc. It's to support communities, not throw them away. Okay,
follow-up question for you. It's actually for Jamal Bowman to your left there. That's a very interesting look you have on your face, Mr. Bowman. Also to you, Senator Schumer, your facial expression seems like you're not quite grasping what the Congresswoman is talking about here. And of course, they're not going to answer. But did you see the look on Schumer and Jamal Bowman's face when she was saying that, Michael?
Well, unfortunately, the big tech powers that be that are part of the blob totally froze up your question when you just posed it.
Let me ask you,
no doubt because of what we were just saying.
I'll ask it again. You know, Chuck Schumer's face and Jamal Bowman's face when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is talking about getting rid of jails, even they were wondering what she was talking about.
Well, her argument is a little suspect because she says if you want to reduce violent crime, if you want to reduce the number of people in jails, then, and you say, hold on, wait a second. I want to reduce violent crime. That would seem that if I want fewer criminals on the street, I need to put more of them in jails. And by the way, that's obviously what we need. Everyone talks about reducing the number of people in prisons. Crime is going through the roof. BLM burned the country to the ground last year. We need many more people in jails. I like her analogy with the hospitals. Be saying, if you want to reduce the amount of sickness, if you want to reduce the number of people in hospitals. And you say, wait a second, if someone's sick, then you actually have to go to the hospital. But for AOC, of course, the jails are not the solution to crime. The jails are the cause of the crime. It's this exactly backwards view of society, which is why she gets things so terribly wrong.
Counterintuitive, to say the least. Michael, great to see you. We'll see you over at the Daily Wire. And I look forward to reading the book when it's finally out. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. Good to be with you.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.